A CBS News exclusive. The case of a green card holder detained by ICE and then released returns to a courtroom this morning. The government is appealing a judge's order that led to Mohsen Mahdawi's freedom. He sat down with our Lilia Luciano for his first network interview to recount his time in custody and send a message to the White House.
My freedom signals a light of hope.
Mohsen Mahdawi says he was hopeful but surprised when a federal judge ordered his release last week.
Do you remember what you felt at that moment?
I was reassured in my heart of the belief that justice will prevail and the justice system is functioning.
After 16 days in detention, he walked out of the courthouse and spoke to a group of supporters. He had a message for President Trump.
I am not afraid of you.
Why was it important for you to speak directly to Donald Trump as you were walking out free?
There is this philosophy of intimidation, of punitive justice. So I wanted to share to them that you can do whatever you want. You will not silence me.
We stand tall.
Mahdawi, a Palestinian green card holder, led student protests against the war in Gaza. He was arrested last month while attending his final citizenship test.
Masked agents loaded with guns separated me, isolated me from my lawyer, did not allow for any conversation of like, let me see the order that you have or what's happening. And I said, I am a peaceful man.
We were there as federal agents took him away on orders by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, alleging the Columbia University protests were anti-Semitic.
He accuses you of potentially undermining the peace process underway in the Middle East.
It's laughable. A person who has been vocally advocating for justice and peace is undermining U.S. policy.
Despite his imprisonment, Mahdawi says he will continue to protest.
I wasn't afraid when they detained me. I was not afraid when I get out of detention, and I am not afraid to share my voice.
In his ruling, the judge said that Mahdawi was neither a flight risk nor a danger and said that keeping him detained could have a chilling effect on protected speech. He also drew a comparison with the McCarthy era. And while Mahdawi can go back to Columbia University for his graduation later this month and to start his master's degree in the fall, he's still fighting his deportation and his detention. Lilia, Luciano, CBS News, Burlington, Vermont.
CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman joins me here right now in Studio 57 with more on this and other cases. Great to see you this morning, Katrina. A court of appeals in New York City today will hear arguments on Mahdawi's case. So what can we expect to hear? What's the central issue?
Yeah. Good morning, Errol. So this hearing is actually both about Mohsen Mahdawi and Rumeysa Ozturk, who is the graduate student who was arrested at Tufts. And what their government is asking for is they want lower court orders paused in both cases. So this release of Mohsen Mahdawi, they want that changed. And also with Rumeysa Ozturk, a district judge has ordered that she be transferred to Vermont, she's currently in Louisiana in a detention center. She was arrested in Massachusetts and she was brought to Vermont in the interim. So the government is trying to stay those decisions, roll them back. And they also want these cases consolidated. So they want them heard together as one case, which is something that their lawyers do not want. So we'll be hearing these arguments in the Second Circuit today.
And there's a separate case I want to mention, that of Badar Khansuri. This is the Indian national and Georgetown researcher who was detained in March for alleged links to Hamas. How much does the government need to prove or say out loud at this hearing, at this stage?
So this is an immigration court hearing, Errol, and what is going to happen is that his attorneys are trying to get some things changed. For one, they want him released altogether from detention. He's currently in a detention center in Texas. But the other issue, they say, is that he's received this high-risk classification there that's really limiting him. It's something that's supposed to be for criminals usually. This is someone who is a postdoctoral fellow from Georgetown University. So they say that they want him released, or at the very least for this classification to be reconsidered, because Right now, he wasn't even initially being given certain religious accommodations like a prayer mat. He can only leave his cell for 2 hours a day. So these are some of the issues that they're going to be discussing today at this immigration hearing.
And there are so many cases that you're following on that immigration front. I want to talk to you about something completely separate, because you were physically in the courtroom as jury selection is now underway in the trial against Sean Diddy Combs. What stood out to you?
Errol, jury selection is always so interesting. And one thing about a case like Sean Combs is that you're just not going to find people who don't know who he is and who haven't heard about the case. So those were questions that came up in court yesterday. Some people had heard about it by, they saw a New York Times headline, or there had been water cooler talk at their office. There's also a very controversial video that was obtained by CNN. It appears to show Combs assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. And so some of the jurors had either seen clips of that or images of that as well. And those are always challenges to navigate, because the judge wants to make sure he can have a fair and impartial jury. But a lot of these people, actually, I think pretty much all of them, said that they still felt, despite what they knew or what they'd seen, that they could be fair and impartial in this case. The other thing was, this case is probably going to go on for about 8 weeks. It spans 2 decades. There's this really long list of people and places that we assume may come up during the trial. So each of these prospective jurors has to review that. And the judge commented that it's so long that it was like the Lord of the Rings appendix at the beginning of the trial.
Will be a busy summer for all of us, you especially. Great to have your updates on everything. Katrina, thanks so much.
Thanks, Errol.